Dangal greetings, Sir Janus. I am Gio Lawrence Perey and I am going to discuss the project overview. We are tasked to develop a smart inventory and sales management system for a small retail store. So our system has 3 modules, which are the product management module, sales management module, and reports and analytics module. So each module has its features. Let's start with the product management module, which manages the store's product records. So we have a feature for adding new product to the system, viewing all the products, so we have a display for forward and backward traversal, updating product details, deleting product, and searching a product by ID or name. Now let's move on to the sales management module, which handles the recording of customer purchases. Here we have a feature for recording a sale, which automatically reduces stock in the product list, displaying all sales record, deleting a sales record, and generating sales summary, which shows the total sales and most sold product. So lastly, the reports and analytics module, which allows the user to view total number of products, view total sales revenue, identify the product with the highest total sales, and identify out-of-stock products. So that's all for our project features and overview.
So, dangal greetings, Sir Janus. I'm Tolentino, and I'm here to give you a simple overview of the classes that we used in our project. So, we have used 5 classes in our project, which are the main class, the product node class, sales node class, product link list class, and the sales link list class. So the main class is used to call all the operations required in this project. So the sales link list and product link list are the classes responsible for listing all the individual sales record and product that we use in our project. So, for the last 2 class that we use, the product node class and the sales node class, these are the containers for the individual product and sales record.
Greetings, Sir Janus. I am Tolentino, and I am here to explain what this containsIgnoreCase method do. So, this method returns a Boolean value which may be true or false, and accepts two strings called main string and the string to search. So, this containsIgnoreCase method checks if a smaller string exists within a larger string, ignoring differences in uppercase and lowercase letters. First, both main string and string to search are converted into lowercase using the toLowerCase method, and trim of extra spaces using toTrim method to ensure that the comparison is clean. Next, a Boolean variable named isStringFound is then initialized to false, which will later indicate whether the search string has been found in the main string. The method uses a nested for loop to perform the search. The outer for loop, controlled by outer index, goes through each possible starting position in main string, where string to search could fit. For each starting position, a variable isStringMatch is set to true, and the inner loop, using inner index, compares each character of string to search with the corresponding character in main string. If any character does not match, isString is set to false. And the inner loop stops using this break declaration, meaning the substring is found. isStringFound becomes true and the search ends. Finally, the method returns true if the isStringFound is true and false otherwise, effectively confirming whether the smaller string exists within the main string regardless of the letter case.
Greetings, my name is Panaligan, and I'll be explaining the toLowerCase and the toTrim method. This method iterates through the input string and converts any uppercase letter A through Z to their corresponding lowercase letter. How it works, it checks each character in input, each character between A and Z uppercase letter. It adds a 32 to the character or Unicode value in the ASCII table. The lowercase letter are exactly 32 position after their uppercase counterparts. The converted character is then appended to a new string, lowercase string. The result, it converts the entire input string to lowercase without using the main string to lowercase method. Next is toTrim method. This method iterates through the input string and creates a new string that includes only non-white space character. How it works, it checks each character in the input text. If the character is not a space character, it is expanded to a new string. All the spaces from the string this is cleaning than the standard JavaScript string, which is only removes leading and trailing spaces. Next is the addProduct method. This method is responsible for gathering the new product data from the user, adding it as a new node to the end of the doubly linked list. Input gathering. It prompts the user enter the name, price, and quantity of the new product. Utilizing helper method, getValidDouble and getValidInt. To ensure the input data type is correct, ID assignment, it uses the instance variable ID to automatically generate a unique sequential product ID. Node creation is to create a new product instance with all the collect data. Linked list insertion to the tail. If the list is not empty, this head null. The new nodes link after the current tail. The current tail's next pointer point to the new node. The new node's prev pointer points back to the old tail, and finally the new node becomes the new tail. If the list is empty, the new node becomes both head and tail. Count updates the product counts it's incremented. Next is the getValidDouble. This method purpose prompts the user for input and ensure the entered value can be successfully parsed as a floating point number double. The mechanism of this, it uses a while true loop and try to catch a block. It attempts to parse the input with double parse double. If a number form exception occurs, meaning the user entered text or valid format, it catches the error, prints a invalid input message, and the loop repeats until the valid number is entered. Next is the getValidInt method. The purpose of this prompts the user for input and ensure the entered value can be successfully parsed as a whole number. The mechanism of this, it operates identically to getValidDouble, but it attempts to parse the input with the integer parsing read line, ensuring the number is valid integer.
So hello, I'm Gabriel G. Panaligan from 2ITC. I'll be explaining the addDummyProduct. First is when this program starts, it automatically adds sample or dummy products to the linked list. This helps fill in the inventory with pre-made items, so I don't need to manually type every product when testing. So this is it. Ito po yun. So in this constructor, inside the constructor, there are three array names: price, as you can see, price, product, and quantities. Each array line corresponds to one product. Like for example, Pancit Canton. It costs 15 pesos 50 centavos with 250 stock. Then there's a for loop that runs through all of these arrays and calls the method addDummyProduct for each item. That's what actually inserts them into the linked list. Now, let's go to the addDummyProduct. This is the method that actually adds one product into the linked list. First, it creates a new product node using the provided product name, price, and quantity. And the ID automatically assign a unique product ID that increases every time a product is added. Then, if the list already has items, if the head is not null, it means there's already at least one product. So we link the new one at the end of the list. So this .tol.setNext here links the new product back to the old tail. Then we move the tail pointer forward with this tail new product node. Otherwise, if the list is empty, meaning both head and tail are null, this new product becomes both the head and the tail of the list, the very first product in our inventory. Finally, this is the product count increases the total number of products stored in the list. So basically, addDummyProduct is the engine that insert one product node into the doubly linked list. And that's it.
Greetings, Sir Janus, and my name is James DRANZER Peralta, and I'm here to tackle the helper method in our program. So first we have here the getValidDouble. So what does it do? Well, we have here an exception handling to check if the user inputs a valid double value. So for example, 2.0, 1.0, and if the user types a invalid input, the catch will display a invalid input message here. That's all for our getValidDouble. Thank you, Sir Janus. Tagalog videos. Greetings, Sir Janus. My name is James DRANZER Peralta, and for the next helper method, we will tackle about the getValidInt. Same as the getValidDouble, we also have here an exception handling, but for this case, we're checking if the user inputs a valid integer value. So in getValidDouble, it will only accept a 2.0, 3.0 inputs, but here it will only accept a 1, 2, and so on and so forth, as long as it doesn't have a 0.0 in the end. And if the user inputs a invalid input, it will display an invalid message that will clarify the user to input a valid integer value. That's all, Sir Janus. Thank you, and Tagalog greetings.
Dangal greetings, I am JAMELLE Cassandra A. Rustria, and for the parts that I am going to explain, first we have the isEmpty method. It is a public method with a Boolean return type and no parameter. So the code for this may seem short, but it is actually an important part of the system because it is the one that checks if the product list is empty and makes sure that the list has data before doing any other operations. So it does this by checking if this.head is equals to null, and if it is, that means there are no products found on the list, so it returns true. But if the head has a value, then the list isn't empty and returns false.
Hello, greetings. My name is JILLIAN Tabanganay from 2ITSA, and now I'll explain my part which is called displayFromOldest. So this code is for showing the product in the store or inventory. So we got two ways to see the product. One is from the oldest to newest, and the other is from latest to oldest. So first, let's talk about the one from oldest to newest. So the method called displayFromOldest. So what is do? First is check if a product list is empty. If there's nothing, it just print there's no product in the inventory and stop. Just to make sure it doesn't try to print something that doesn't exist and crash. If there are products, it prints a title, product from oldest to latest, so we know what we're looking at. Then it creates a line called separator with just a row of dashes to make the table look clean. And after that, there's this line out print. So this line, the header of the table, meaning it shows the name of the column. So the purpose of this is the user know what is the column is for. So after that, we set the product node current equal to this.head, which means we start from the first product added, then there's a while loop that goes through each product. So inside the loop, it prints the product ID, name, price, and quantity using another system outprint, similar to the header but with the actual data. Then next is the current. So the most then current move to the next product until there's no more. So finally, it prints the separator again to close the table. So next is we have display from latest display from latest method. This is almost the same but the other way around. So if there's the first one is using get next, so this one is using if the first one using get that next, so this one is different. It starts from the tail instead of head and uses the get ref to go backward. It also prints a title separator and the same table header using from system outprints like the first method. So the rest is similar. It prints all the product info in order from newest to oldest and the close and then close the table with a separator line. So basically both methods just show the product in the table but in different order. So one goes from oldest to newest and the other goes from newest to oldest. So pretty simple. It's just a way to see the inventory in a clean and readable format. Thank you.
So next is the updateProduct method, which is used to update or modify the details of a specific product in the inventory. It is a public method with no return type and no parameters. Also includes throws IO exception because we're using a buffered reader to take user input in this method. So there's a variable here named a separator that contains a long line of dashes which is included to improve the appearance of the product table when displayed. And before anything else, it first checks if the product list is empty by calling the isEmpty method. If the list is empty, the system displays a message, "There's no product in the inventory," and exits the method right away since there's nothing to update. But if there are products in the list, it will first display all of them so the user can see which product they want to update. After that, it asks for the product ID that the user wants to modify. The program then checks if that ID exists in the list by using the search by ID method. If the product is not found, the program displays a message to notify the user. But if the product ID is found, it displays the current details such as product name, price, and quantity. Formatted using the separator again for neat presentation. The user can then enter the new product name, price, and quantity. After that, the product's data is updated using the setter methods: set product name, set price, and set quantity stock. Finally, the system displays a message saying product updated successfully.
Greetings, Sir Janus. My name is James Ranzer T. Peralta, and I'm assigned to the delete feature of our midterm project, which is Smart Inventory and Sales Management System. And we'll have to select in the menu, which is one product management. Let's add a new product first. So let's add Milo, price of 10, and quantity of 20. So select 5 to access the delete feature. As you can see, it displayed the product from latest to oldest. As we can see, on top of it is the Milo, which is the newly added product in the list. So to delete a product, the user has to input a product ID to delete a product in the inventory. So for example, I want to delete the newly added Milo. Here, Milo. So I'll just input number 12. and display the select number 2 in the menu to display the products from latest to oldest again. As we can see, there's no more Milo in the product. Let's delete another product. Let's select number 5, which is Copico Black Coffee. And let's then display the product from latest to oldest again. As we can see, there's no more Copico in the list. So, how does the delete feature works? In the product linked list.java, there's a method called deleteProduct that has a throws IO exception because we use buffered reader for the user input. There's an if statement that checks if the list is empty. So for the first condition, it's already false. So it will proceed in the another condition, which is if the product is equals to null. Or let's just say that if the product ID, which is that was typed by the user, is not found in the list, it will display this message. So we have here a multiple let's just say 3 cases to when the user typed a number. So for the first condition, it identifies if the user wants to delete the only node in the list. So for example, he'll delete the number 1 and the only product in the list is number 1. It will set the head and tail to null. So for the second case, if the user wants to delete the head, it will identify the next node. So the value of head is just going to be moved from the next, and that the previously deleted product, it will be set to null. So for the second case, the user wants to delete the tail. So once the user wants to delete the tail, it will move the tail from the previous element, and it will set the next to null. And for the last case, we have here if the user wants to delete, the node is in the middle, so it will get the product that get prev that set next and product that get next. So it will just link the previous node to the node after the deleted product, and it will link the next node back to the node before the deleted product. And here, for the last part of the code, it will display a successful message that will help the user to confirm if the product deletion is successful. And we have here a product count that will automatically get decrement, or will have a -1 every time a user deletes something in the inventory. So for example, we have there an 11. We have here an 11. So after deleting the number 5, so we only have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we only have 10 products left in the inventory. And that's all for my part. Thank you, Sir Janus, and greetings po.
Dangal greetings, Sir Janus. I am Perey, and I am going to explain the search method. The search method is to look for a product in the inventory, either by its ID or by its name. First, the method checks if the product list is empty using the isEmpty method. If it is empty, it prints a message saying there's no product in the inventory and immediately returns, which means it stops running the rest of the code since there's nothing to search for. If the product list is not empty, the program continues in displaying a menu called Search Product by ID or Name. Inside this menu, the user is given 3 options. Press 1 to search by ID, press 2 to search by name, or press 0 to go back to the product management menu. The program then asks the user to enter their choice using the getValidInt method, which checks if the user entered a valid number. After the user entered their choice, the program uses a switch statement to decide what to do next. If the user chooses 1, it calls the search product by ID method, which will handle searching by product ID. If the user chooses 2, it calls the search product by ID, which will handle searching by product name. If the user chooses 0, it returns, which means it goes back to the previous menu and exits this method. If the user enters any other number, it shows an error message saying the choice is invalid and asks the user to try again. This process is wrapped in a while-through loop, which means the menu keeps showing repeatedly until the user chooses 0 to go back. So that's all. Dangal greetings, Sir Janus. I am Perey and I am going to explain the method Search Product by ID. The Search Product by ID method allows the user to find a product in the inventory by using its product ID. First, the method starts by printing a title that says Search Product by ID. Then, it asks the user to enter the product ID they want to search for. It uses the method getValidInt to make sure that the user enters a valid integer number. This prevents error in case the user types something that's not a number. After getting the product ID, the program calls another method named Search by ID and passes the entered ID as an argument. This method searches through the product list and returns the product information if it exists. The returned product is then stored in a variable called product. Next, the program checks if the product is null. If it is null, that means there's no product with that ID in the inventory. In that case, it prints a message saying that the product with the given ID was not found. And then the method stops running using the return statement. If the product is not null, it means that the product was successfully found. The method then prints a line separator for formatting and displays the product details in a clean table format. It shows the product ID, product name, price, and quantity. So that's all. Dangal greetings, Sir Janus. I am Perey and I am going to explain Search by ID method. The Search by ID method is used to find and return a product in the inventory that matches a specific product ID. First, the method starts by creating a variable called current, which is set to this.head. This means that the search will start from the first node in the linked list of products. Then, it enters a while loop that continues running as long as current is not null. In other words, the loop will keep checking each product node one by one until it reaches the end of the list. Inside the loop, each product, which is obtained using current.getProductID, is equal to the ID that was passed as a parameter to the method. If it finds a match, that means the product with the given ID exists in the inventory. So the method immediately returns that product node. If the current node's ID does not match, the program moves to the next node by setting current is equals current.getNext. And the process continues until it either finds the product or reaches the end of the list. If the loop finishes and no matching product was found, the method returns null. Returning null means that there is no product in the inventory with a given ID. So that's all. Dangal greetings, Sir Janus. I am Perey and I am going to explain the search product by name. The search product by name method is used to find and display a product in the inventory based on its name. First, the method prints a title that says search product by name to show what operation the user is doing. Then, it asks the user to type the name of the product they want to search. The user's input is stored in a variable called product name to search. Next, the method starts from the beginning of the product list by setting a variable called current product node to this.head. This means it will begin checking from the first product in the linked list. Before searching, the program prints a table header with columns for ID, product name, price, and quantity. This serves as the format for displaying any matching products found. After that, the method uses a while loop to go through each product node in the linked list one by one. Inside the loop, it checks if the current product's name contains the text entered by the user using the containsIgnoreCase method. This method allows the program to match names even if the user used lowercase or uppercase. This custom method called containsIgnoreCase behaves like the built-in string functions we have in Java named .contains. So if a match is found, it prints the product details including the product's ID, name, price, and quantity in a formatted table row. It also sets the variable isProductFound to true, which means that at least one product matched the search. After the loop finishes checking all the products, the method prints another line separator for formatting. Then it checks if no product was found. If isProductFound is still false, it means there were no matches, so it prints a message inside the table that says no product found. So that's all for the search by name method.
So, hello, my name is Gabriel G. Panaligan, and I'll be explaining record sale. So, this method is called record sale, and it's used whenever we want to record a new sale. For example, when a customer buys a product, it will ask for user input, check if the product exists and has enough stock, then deduct the quantity and save the sale record in our sale list. Ito yung method setup niya. Record sale. Here. We start by declaring variables. We need a product node to store the product being sold, a sales node for the sale record, and some details like the product ID, quantity to sell, sale total, and date. The method also throws IO exception because it uses buffer to get user input. Okay, before recording a sale, we check if the product list is empty. If there are no products, the system prints a message and stops here because you can sell something that doesn't exist. Here. If there are any product, it displays them first. The product list display product list, so the user can see the available items, their IDs, and stock before choosing what to sell. So their system outprint. Here. Okay. Next, the system asks for two inputs, the product ID of the item to sell and how many pieces to sell. These inputs are reads as text, then converted to integers using integer.parseInt. Here. Now product equals product list dot search product ID. After getting the product ID, the program searches the product list using search product. If it returns null, that means the product ID doesn't exist. So it prints product not found and exits. Now dito tayo sa if quantity to sell. This part checks if the quantity to sell is greater than the available stock. If there's not enough stock, it shows an error and cancels the sale. Now we're computing total sale and update quantity. Now, if the stock is enough, the program calculates the total sale amount by manipulating the price by the quantity sold. Then it updates the stock by subtracting the sold amount from the product's current quantity. So now, as for sale date here, the system then asks for the sale date, then will be stored in the sale record. Now, creating and add the sale node. This line creates a new sales or in linked terms or linked list terms, a new node containing all the details: sale, product ID, product name, quantity sold, total amount, and date. Notice that sale ID++ automatically assigns a unique sale number every time a sale added. Okay, now add to the sales linked list. Just like in the product list, this part connects the new sale node into the linked list. If the list already has sales, it attaches the new one at the end and updates the tail. If this is the first sale, it becomes both the head and the tail. Now, the confirmation message, sale recorded successfully. Finally, the program prints a success message confirming that the sale was recorded and stock updated. So in short, record sale handles everything from getting user input, checking stock, computing totals, updating inventory, and finally saving the sale record in the linked list.
So this part is a custom method called containsIgnoreCase, and job is to check if two strings are equal but only ignores capitalization. So the method takes two strings as input called string 1 and string 2. So first it checks if either of the string is null using if string 1 equal to null and string 2 is equal to null. So if one or both are null, it immediately returns false because null string can be equal to anything no matter what. So next is check if the length of two strings are different using if string 1 length is cannot equal to string 2 length if the number of the character is not the same. And also return false right away because strings with different length cannot be equal. Then it goes to a loop that checks each character one by one. The loop runs from I equals 0 to the last character of string 1. So inside the loop, it takes the character at position I from both strings using character at and stores them in a character 1 and character 2. Then check if a character 1 is in uppercase. From A to Z, it is converted to lowercase by adding 32 to each ASCII value and typecasting it back to the character. So it does the same thing for character 2. So after converting the both characters to lowercase, it compares them. If the characters are not equal, it returns false. It returns false immediately because it found a mismatch. And if the loop finishes without finding any mismatch, that means all the characters are equal, ignoring capitalization, so it returns the true. So basically, this method goes through both strings step by step, make sure they are the same length, converts all the letters to the lowercase, and check each other's character. So if everything match, it says that strings are equal. If not, it says that they are different. That's all. Thank you.
Greetings everyone. I am John Michael Atchico from 2ITC. So in my part, the method to add the dummy data, I declared the method as a private method to for the sales link list class. It will be visible, but the other classes will not be visible for them, the addDummySale method. And also, I declared it as a void, which is no return type, because the primary goals of this method is only just to add the dummy data and not to return anything. So inside the parameter of the addDummySale, I initialize the data type string, which is for the product name, data type double for the product price, the data type int for the product quantity, and lastly, data type string for the date. So I also declare the sales. I initialize the new sales node, which is for the new sales node, and inside the parameter of this, the ID will be increment, which is continuously adding as the new sales node is added to the system. So it will also perform the product name, the product quantity, the product price, and the total amount of the product price times the product quantity, and also the date. So in this so for the next, the if else conditional statement to perform the full method. So in the if the head is not equals to null, so the tail will be set to the next new sales node, and for the new sales node, it will be set to previous to the tail, and the tail will be equals to the new sales node. If it is not, if the head is equals to null, so it will perform the else conditional statement, which is the head is equals to the new sales node, and the tail will be also equals to the new sales node.
Greetings, I am Segundo, and this is my part, which is display monthly record sale. So this displays sales by month and year. This method shows all the sales that were made in a specific month and year. How it works? It first checks if the sales list is empty using isEmpty. If it's empty, it prints no sales record available. Then it asks the users to input month like January or Jan, or a year like 2024 or 2025. The method normalizes the user input and removes extra spaces and makes it lowercase. It loops through every sales node in the first list. For each node, it checks if the date matches the month and the year entered. If it matches, it prints that sale. If no records are found, it prints no sales record found for that month and year.
So, greetings Sir Janus. I am Tolentino, and I'm here to explain what the delete sales record method do. So this method simply deletes a specific sales record searched by the user. So inside this method, there is a sales node called sales record that will be initialized first, right after calling this method. There is also an if block that checks if the sales linked list is empty or not. Using this isEmpty method, this method returns a boolean value which may return to true or false. So if this method returns true, the program will prompt a warning message saying that there's no sales record existing, and will immediately return or stop this method. If this method returns a false or return false, the next part of the method will run, calling this displayAllSales method, which display the table for the list of sales records inside the sales linked list. So there is also an integer
called sales ID to delete, which calls this getValidInt method that accepts a string to be prompted to the user. So this getValidInt method checks if the integer entered by the user is a valid int. So there's also a sales record node that call this search by ID method that accepts an integer. So this method searches the specific sales node or sales record with the sales ID. So this method returns a node, the specific node that the user is searching. There is also an if block that checks if the sales record is null, meaning that there is no sales record that match with the sales ID entered by the user. So if the sales record is null, the program will display a warning message saying that sales record with the ID of the sales ID to delete is not known, and immediately return or stops the code or this method from running. So if the sales record is not equal to null, this else if block will be checked. So this method or this part of the code check the different cases where the sales record node is found. If it is in the head, the tail, in the middle, or if it is the only node found in the list. So the first thing this method or this part do or check is this if block. It checks that if the found or the sales record found is the head and the tail, which means that this is the only sales record in the sales linked list. So if this condition is true, this head or the current head and the current tail will be null, meaning that it is deleted or the sales record is deleted. So second, this else if block checks if the sales record or the current sales record is the head of the list. The next thing it does, if this is true, is it will get the next node of the current head and it will be assigned to be the head of the linked list. And next, it will set its previous node to null, making it the head of the node. So this third else if block will check if the sales record node is the tail of the linked list. So if this is true, the thing that it will do is will assign or get the current tail's previous node and assign it as the head or as the tail of the sales linked list. And the next thing it will do is set its next node to null, making it the tail of the node. So else, which means that it is in the middle of the sales linked list, is it going to get the previous node and set its next node to the sales record that get next or its next node. So the next thing it will do is set or point its previous node to the previous node of the sales record. And lastly, it will display a success message saying that the sales record is deleted successfully.
Dangal greetings, Sir Janus. I am AXEL and for the second module of our midterm group project, I am tasked to do the generate sales summary method. This method is responsible for displaying a sales summary for a specific month and year. And you can see a bunch of variables here. This variable for month and year is responsible for storing the user's input for month and year. And we have here a string called separator. We will gonna be using this to display our sales summary table. And then next we have here a string called current product. We're gonna be temporarily storing the product name of the current product that are currently checking. And then we have a current sales node. So we will gonna be using this to traverse through the list of our sales record. And then next we have here the sales node to check. We will gonna be using this to compare the current product with other sales record. And then next we have here a boolean called isProduct displayed. This will check if a product is being displayed. And then next we have here a boolean called isYear match and a boolean called isMonth match. So this checks if the current sales record date is a match with the targeted month and year. And then we have here a boolean called isRecord found. So this checks if a record is found for a specific month and year. And then next we have two doubles here, double data type variables. The first one is the current product total sales, and the next one is current product quantity sold. So they will hold the record of the total sales and quantity for each product. And then next we will gonna be prompting the user to enter a valid month and a valid year using a do while loop. So to do this, we will gonna be using the help of our helper method. So our helper method makes sure that the input is correct. If the user enters something invalid, it displays an error message, this error message, and ask again the user until they provide a valid input. And then next we will gonna be displaying the highest total sales using the display highest total sale method. And then next we will gonna be printing the header of our table, of our sales summary table. And for our header we have the product name, the unit price, the unit sold, and the total sales. And then next we have our while loop here. And then we will gonna be traversing through all our sales record using our variable earlier. And then for each node we will gonna be storing the current product name that we are currently checking to this variable. And then we're gonna be reset the quantity and total sales counters and check if the date matches the month and year entered by the user. And if the record doesn't match, it simply skips to the next sales node. If the record matches, we're gonna be proceeding to this while loop, and then we're gonna be using the variable from earlier, and we will gonna be pointing it at the head, and we're gonna be traversing to all the other records of the same product within the same month and year. And this condition will check to find the match for the month and year. And then if it's find the match, it adds up the quantity sold and the total sales here for that product. And then after that we will gonna be flagging this record found as true. And then next we're gonna be proceeding to this block of code. So we will gonna be using this to print out the product's details in a tabular form: the product name, the product price, the product's total quantity sold, and the product's total sale. And then next we have here a if statement that checks if there are existing record for a specific month and year, and if there are no existing record for a specific month and year, it will print out this to notify the user that there are no existing record for the inputted month and year, and that's basically the whole function of our generate sales summary method. And thank you for listening.
We also have here two helper methods, the get total revenue for product and get total quantity sold for product. The get total revenue for product method is used to calculate the total revenue generated by a specific product. It is a public method with a double return type since the total revenue is a value that may include decimals, has one parameter, product name, which represents the name of the product we want to check. Inside the method, the variable total revenue is initialized to 0. Then the program starts from the head node and traverses through each record using a while loop. For every node, it compares the product name using a custom string comparison method called containsIgnoreCase that allows the matching of product names correctly regardless of letter case. If a match is found, the method adds the total amount from that sale, which is the product's price multiplied by its quantity, to the total revenue variable. And then current equals current.getNext for the traversal to move to the next node in the list. After finishing the traversal, it returns the final value of total revenue, which represents the total income earned from that specific product. Then the get total quantity sold for product method used to calculate the total quantity sold for a specific product. It is also a public method with an int return type since the total quantity is always a whole number and takes one parameter, product name, which again represents the product we want to check. Inside the method, a variable named total quantity sold is initialized to 0 and will keep track of the accumulated quantity sold as the method loops through each sales record. The process starts with the head node and traverses through the entire sales list using a while loop. For every record, the method compares the product names using, again, the containsIgnoreCase method so it can correctly match the names regardless of letter case. If a match is found, the product's quantity sold from that record is added to the running total stored in total quantity sold. Once the loop ends, the method returns the final total, which represents the total number of items sold for that specific product.
So also in my part, I also tasked to discuss or to explain to you the method getProductCount. So in the getProductCount method, it is declared as a public method which is it can access through all the classes of the code, and also it has a return value of integers that execute the product count. So here in the addDummyProduct method was also to update the product count after adding a product. So in here, after the adding the new product node and also executing the if else method so that the product will be added into the program or to the code, it will also add to the product count. That the product count will be increment so that it will add and update the product count.
Greetings, Sir Janus. I am Tolentino and I'm here to explain what this display monthly revenue method. So this method simply displays the total sales revenue for a specific month. So inside this method, we have a sales node called current sales node that is initially have a value of the current head of the sales name is. We also have a boolean variable called isRecordExist that is initially have a value of false. This variable will help to keep track if there is a record existing inside the sales linked list class that is equal to the date entered by the user. So we also have here a double variable called the total month revenue that is initially set to 0. This variable will help to keep track the total sales or total revenue for a specific month. We also have a boolean variable here called isYearMatch and isMonthMatch. So these variables are for checking if the month and year is matched with the month and year the user is looking for. We also have a string variables here called month and year that is responsible to hold the month and year entered by the user. So the next thing we have here is these two do-while blocks, which checks if the month and year entered by the user is valid. So for the first do-while block, this checks if the month entered by the user is valid. So the first thing it do is prompt the user to enter a month, and the month entered by the user is stored inside this month variable. Then this if block checks if the month is valid using this isMonthValid method that accepts a string. So if this condition returns to false or is false, means that the month entered by the user is not valid. The program will display an error message saying please enter a valid month. So this while part of the do-while block here will check if the month is not valid. So this do-while block will repeatedly run until the user enters a valid month. This second do-while block also do the same thing as the first do-while block here, but it checks for the year entered by the user. So the first thing it do is it first prompt the user to enter the year or enter a year, and the next thing is the year entered by the user is stored here inside this year variable, and it is checked if it is valid using this or inside this if block using isYearValid method that accepts a string. So if the year is not valid, then the program will send an error message, and it will display an error message and it says that please enter a valid year. So this do-while block will also repeatedly run until the user enters a valid year. So going to the next part of this method, which is this while block. This while block will traverse to the sales linked list. So this while block checks if the current sales node is not equal to null, meaning that there is a record list existing. So the first thing this method or this block have is this isYearMatch variable that calls the containsIgnoreCase. This method is accepting two string variables. So in this case, we have a current sales node that getDate, which is the sales record date of a specific sales record, and the year entered by the user. This method checks if the string is inside another string. So in this case, we are checking for the year if it is inside this current sales node record date. So for example, if the year is 2025 and the current sales node that getDate is equals to January 21, 2025, meaning that 2025 is inside is included inside the date or the current date of the sales record. So meaning that this is true. So this line or this part of the while loop also do the same thing, but it checks for the month entered by the user. These two boolean variables needed to be true to record a total sales or a sales of a specific sales record to the total month revenue. So this if block checks the condition of isMonthMatch and isYearMatch. So these two boolean variables needed to be true to run the code inside this if block. So for example, that isMonthMatch and isYearMatch variables is true, then it will get the current sales node that getTotal, which is the total sales for a specific sales record, and then it will add up to the total month revenue value. So for example, if the current sales node that getTotal is equals to 100, then the total month revenue is 0. The total month revenue will be 100 because it adds up, and it will turn the isRecord exists to true, that is earlier set to false. And then this part of the code, which calls the current sales node that get next and assign it as the current sales node, which means that we are checking the next node, and this part will continue to run until it gets to the tail of the sales linked list, which means that the next node is null, and this condition will return to false. That stops this while block code. So for this if else block here, it checks if the isRecord exists is true or false, or if there are any existing records for a specific month and year. So if this record exists, value is true, then it will display the total sales revenue accumulated when this while block runs. Else, or if the isRecord exists is false, then it will display that there are no sales record for a specific month that the user is looking for. Greetings, Sir Janus. I'm Tolentino, and I'm here to explain what this isMonthValid method do. So this method checks if the month entered by the user is valid. So this method returns a boolean value and accepts a string value. So inside this method, we have a array of string called valid month. This month is the months considered valid by this method. So January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December, which are lowered case and doesn't contain any white spaces, are considered valid by this method. So next, we also have a string called process string that is a container or holds the value of the process string that is entered by the user. So the string is first turned into toLowerCase by this toLowerCase method, and then if there are any existing white spaces, it is removed by this toTrim custom made method. So for the next part of this method is the for loop. So this for loop loops through each value of the valid month array. Inside this for loop, there is an if block that checks if the valid month index or the current value here inside the valid month array is equals to the process string, using this custom-made compare string ignore case method that accepts two string that is which is going to be compared. So if this this method returns a boolean value which may be true or false. So if this method returns true, this method will also return to true, meaning that the month entered by the user is valid. And if the for loop or the loop ends without returning true, means that the month entered by the user is not valid and will return to false. So, greetings, Sir Janus. I'm Tolentino, and I'm here to explain what the isYearValid method do. So in this method, there is a try-catch block that determines if the year entered by the user is valid. So the first thing this method do is try to parse the string input of the user, which is the year. So if this string is parsed into an integer, it means that the year entered by the user is valid. And if not, if there's an error or a number exception error or exception, it will return to false, which means the year is not a valid year.
Greetings, Sir Janus. I am Perey, and I am going to explain the display highest total sale method. The display highest total sale method is used to determine and display the product that has earned the highest total sales revenue. In other words, it identifies which product has made the most money overall based on the sales record. First, the method checks if the sales list is empty by calling the isEmpty method. If there are no sales, it prints a message saying no sales data available and exits the method right away using the return statement. If the list is not empty, the program starts going through all the products in the product list. It does this by creating a product node variable called current, which starts at the head of the linked list. It also sets up several variables. Max revenue to track the highest total revenue found so far, most sold product to store the name of the product with the highest sales, most sold product ID for its ID, and total quantity sold for the total number of units sold. Then inside a while loop, the program goes through each product node one by one. For each product, it calls the helper method get total revenue for product to calculate how much money that product has made in total. If the total revenue of the current product is greater than current revenue, that means a new top-selling product has been found. The method then updates all the tracking variables, saving the new highest revenue, the product's name, its ID, and its total quantity sold using another helper method called get total quantity sold for product. After checking all products, the program exits the loop. If the highest revenue or max revenue is greater than 0, it prints out the product with the highest overall sales in a nicely formatted output showing the product ID, name, total quantity sold, and total sales revenue. If no products were sold, it displays a message saying no products have been sold yet. So that's all for the display highest total sale method.
Greetings again, Sir Janus. So for the module 3 of our midterm project, I am tasked to do the get out of stock product method, and this method is responsible for displaying the product informations of the out of stock product in our inventory. And first, we initialize these two variables. The first variable is called out of stock product count, and this variable counts the out of stock product in our inventory. And then the next variable is called current product node. So this variable will be used in traversing through the list of our products. So next is this block of code. This block of code checks if the list is empty using the isEmpty method. And then if it is empty, it will stop the program and return to the main menu. And then next, we display the table for presenting the informations of the product that are out of stocks. So this line of codes are responsible for printing the header of the table. So our table has the product ID and the product name. And then next is we're gonna traverse to the list of products. So here is the current product node, which are declared here, initialized here. So it starts with the head, and then next is it checks if the current product node that get quantity stock is equals to 0. So it basically get the quantity stocks of the product in the product list, and if it is 0, it will be printed in a table form using our string formatting method. And then this gets the product ID, and this gets the product name, and this is our out of stock product count, and this is initialized here. So if there are out of stock product, it updates the count, so it adds 1 to the count. And then here we point the current node to the next node after performing this block of code. And then after that, it will check if there are no products that are out of stock using this if statement. So it compares the out of stock product count to 0, and if there are no product that are out of stock, it will print this line in a tabular form. And then that's it. That's the function of our get out of stock product.